So the next activity, which is the second activity, will involve creating a set of cards. That could be any size. I've decided to cut them this size. And on these cards, we're going to be creating symbols that represent feelings or emotions. So in art therapy, it's very common for symbols and metaphors to emerge through art making. And sometimes these symbols are, they're a mystery because they obviously emerge from our unconscious, and we're very unaware of what they would mean. So the idea of this activity is to really think about a couple of feelings and emotions. Some might be challenging emotions, some of them might be, really positive emotions, and just thinking on how you perceive these feelings. So we'll be creating symbols based on colors, on forms and shapes, and seeing how we can make a representation of these emotions. So to do this activity, you need thick paper. So I've used like a sketch pad, A4 sketch pad that you can get even from a stationery shop. So it's important for the paper to be a little bit thick and not very thin. And then you'll use the scissors to cut these in this shape. And then you'll need watercolors or acrylics, a palette to mix your paint. You need brushes, water, some pens. If you don't want to use paint, feel free to also use paint. And then for other people who might not feel comfortable using paint, they could also make use of magazines and cut out symbols or pictures or colors that represent the emotions that you want to create on your cards. So the feelings that I picked for this activity, so I've got 6 cards. So we'll start off with fear, anxiety, envy, self-love, joy, and then the 6th one could be sadness. So I'll start off by mixing some colors first. So let's pick this brush. Just thinking of the first one, I want to represent fear. And of course, this is all very relative. So this is obviously my take on how I represent fear, right? So I'll probably go for some dark color. So I'll be using a mixture of watercolor and acrylics probably, but obviously you can stick to just one. Just mixing some gray. So obviously I'm associating a certain mood and color with the word fear. You could blend some watercolors if you want to. So it doesn't really have to be a neat design, a really complicated design. It could simply be just a color. So really just letting go and seeing really what you want to represent. So the second one would be, let's do anxiety. And then the next one is envy. Going to use a bit of acrylics here. It's good to mix and match sometimes. And we've got self-love. Or you could choose love, any kind of representation that you want. And then the next one would be, let's pick sadness. And then for the last one, pick joy. So straight away I realized here I went to the yellow color. So I'm probably drawn to that color because it reminds me of the sunshine, good moods, and therefore joy. So I'd suggest not picking any like stick figures or drawing faces, because the whole idea is to find symbols that represent the feelings rather than thinking of the emotion, happiness, and drawing a smiley face. We just want to go a little bit deeper into certain colors or certain symbols that might come out of the activity. So I suggest that you try to take a bit of a bigger step by picking just picking colors and paints and abstract kind of designs rather than faces. I'm just going to add a little bit of blue. And of course all of this is unplanned, so I didn't in any way plan or know that this is going to come out in the way that it is emerging. Okay, so now we can move on to writing about our cards. So we'll just write down the emotion using just a pen or a marker. And there you have my deck of cards for different feelings. They still need to dry, some of them, but that's pretty much what it would look like. So it's just kind of sitting with them and just observing also what was difficult. You might want to observe some. For example, you could see that I've used a similar color for sadness, anxiety, and fear. So you might have some common colors, maybe a similar form. So it's just good to see what you observe. And if you want to engage in reflective writing as well, on the booklet I've written down a couple of sentences and questions that can help you prompt some reflective writing based on what you've done here. So yeah, an additional thing that you could do is at the back, for example, let's say fear. Fear is a difficult one, so you might want to write a message at the back for yourself by saying, yeah, it's dry. So you might want to say, write down a message for yourself. Dear fear, so it's just a personal message. I mean, fear is a feeling that, keeps coming up in especially, during the pandemic and lots of unknowns and everything. So just wrote down a little message for myself. Dear fear, I will try to get to know you better this year. So, there's no point suppressing and denying our feelings. I think fear can be quite a helpful emotion. Just depends on how you look at it. So yeah. So that's the end of the activity.